Hello. Today we will do our fifth lecture, and you know that we have a midterm, and the midterm will include everything that I explained to you uh, till this week. So you will have around eight subjects, and you will be responsible for each of them. If you have a question, you are always free to ask me. I mean, free to email me. You do not chat with me. Just please send me an email or please send me a message from OIS. Tamam. As I explained, we will talk about culture today, and we are starting. Mhm. What is culture? So the concept of culture is among the most widely used terms in sociology. Normally, one can presume culture to be equivalent to higher things of the mind, such as literature, art, music. However, in the perspective of a sociologist, it goes beyond such activities. Culture refers to the ways of life of the members of society or of groups within a society. It includes how we dress, how are our marriage customs, how is our language or family life. And this is the definition of famous Anthony Giddens. So the sociology of culture developed from the intersection between sociology, as shaped by early sociologists like theorists like Karl Marx, Max Weber, Emil Durkheim, and with the rising specialization of anthropology. So, culture can be distinguished from society, but there are very close connections between these notions. A society is a system of interrelationships which connects individuals together. All societies are united by the fact that their members are organized in structured social relationships according to a mixed culture. So, no cultures could exist without societies, but equally, no society could exist without a culture. So, without culture, we would not be human at all. We would have no language in which to express ourselves, no sense of self consciousness, and our ability to think or reason would be severely limited. When sociologists speak about culture, they refer to the values that members of a group hold, their norms, the languages they speak, their symbols, the material objects that they create. Culture is the totality of the learned, socially transmitted customs, knowledge, material objects, and behavior. It includes the ideas, values, artifacts. So, patriotic attachment to the flag of a country is an aspect of culture, as a national passion for the tango in Argentina. Um, so, for instance, in Kenya, Maasai tribesmen ride bicycles through Masai Mara National Park. Shared learned behavior. This is what we call culture, and it can move across international borders to become part of other societies. So, take Fiji, for instance. It's an island in the Pacific where a robust, nicely rounded body has always been the ideal for both men and women. This is a society in which traditionally you gained weight has been considered an accomplishment, and your legs are skinny is an insult. Yet, a recent study shows that for the first time, eating disorders have been showing up among the young people in Fiji. What happened? What happened to their body image? What do you think? So, since the introduction of cable television in 1995, many Fiji Islanders, especially young women, have begun to envy not to their mothers or aunts, but the small waisted stars of television programs still airing there, like Gossip Girl and Modern Family. So, studying cultures in places like Fiji sheds lights on our societies as well. So, sometimes people refer to a particular person as very cultured or to a city as having lots of culture, like Istanbul. That use of the term culture is different from our use in the sociology class. A society is the largest form of human group. It consists of people who share a common heritage and culture. Members of the society learn this culture and transmit it from one generation to the next. They even preserve their distinctive culture among literature, art, video recordings, and other means of expression. So, having a common culture also simplifies many day to day interactions. For example, when you buy an airplane ticket, you know you don't have to bring along hundreds of dollars in cash. You can pay with a credit card. So, this is also culture. And of course, there are some sociological perspectives on culture. Remember that we talked about these sociological perspectives, these are important. So, according to the functionalists and conflict theorists, they agree that culture and society are mutually supportive, but for different reasons. Functionalists maintain that oops, Functionalists maintain that social stability requires a consensus and the support of society's members. Strong central values and common norms provide that support. This view of culture became popular in sociology beginning in 1950s. From a functionalist perspective, a cultural trait or practice will persist if it performs functions that society seems to need or contributes to overall social stability and consensus. On the other hand, conflict theorists agree that a common culture may exist, but they argue that it serves to maintain the privileges of certain groups. Moreover, while protecting their self interest, powerful groups may keep others in a subservient position. So, the term dominant ideology describes the set of cultural beliefs and practices that helps to maintain a powerful social, economic, and political interests. And here, let's talk about the culture industry. According to the critical theory, which was developed after World War II and came into fruition through the efforts of members of what was called the Marxist School of Applied Social Research in Frankfurt in Germany, later known shortly as the Frankfurt School. The German philosopher, am I recording this? Yes. Theodor Adorno and his colleagues from Frankfurt School have spoken of the worldwide culture industry that standardized the goods and services demanded by consumers. Adorno says that globally, the primary effect of popular culture is to limit people's choices. Sometimes the culture industry is embraced, at other times it is rejected. According to Theodor Adorno, uh, leisure time becomes toxic. Capitalism doesn't sell us the things that we really need, and there are proto-fascists everywhere. So you can't help yourself to be agree with them. When Marxist scholars began studying culture, they concentrated much of their effort on critiquing the nature of culture. in society. Adorno and Horkheimer use the term culture industries as the capitalist driven entertainment industry, particularly for Adorno, popular music. They both believe that the collective output of Hollywood possessed no quality, what they called rubbish. Advertising for them is a way of imposing popular consciousness. Through advertising, as they note, men in top places from some of the most powerful sectors of industry sponsor the culture industry to the degree that it becomes dependent and gives evidence how truly concentrated capital is within the entertainment industry. This was done in the service of redeeming mass audiences who supposedly low tastes, according to them, rested at the root of the proliferation of the poor quality, low quality mass culture or crude banality. Theodor Adorno and Max Horkheimer elaborated on the notion of a culture industry put into service by the superstructure in order to incorporate the working class into capitalist society. Horkheimer argued that through films, movies, radio, and popular music, the culture industries emanated in the culture uh, and the robust growth of a consumer society, the promotion of merciless profit, especially when it comes to home buying. They promoted the myth of a classless society, things like that. So they try to take our attention to the issues such as these. For Adorno and Horkheimer, the consumers are workers and the employees, the farmers, and the lower middle class. Capitalist production so confines them, body and soul, and they fall helpless victims to what is offered to. As naturally, as the ruled always took the morality imposed upon them more serious than did the rulers themselves. The deceived masses are today captivated by the myth of success even more than the successful are. And here are the elements of culture. We have symbols, we have the material goods, we have beliefs, we have values, norms, language. Please learn the meanings of all of these. Language is very important. Uh, Language is a system of symbols that permits people to communicate with one another. It is the foundation of every culture. Language is an abstract system of word meanings and symbols for all aspects of culture. It includes speech, written characters, numerical symbols, nonverbal gestures, and expressions. Because language is the foundation of every culture, the ability to speak other languages is crucial to intercultural relations. So it's always important to learn a second or even third language. For instance, the English language. It makes extensive use of words dealing with war. Have you noticed this? They speak of conquering space, fighting the battle, waging war on drugs, making a killing, bombing, things like that. So, an observer from an entirely different culture could understand the importance that war and the military have had in the English speaking countries' lives. Similarly, the Sami people of northern Norway and Sweden have a rich diversity of terms for snow, ice, and reindeers. Um, oops, sorry. So, feminist theorists have noticed that gender related language can reflect the traditional acceptance of men and women in certain occupations. Each time we use a term such as mailman, policeman, or fireman, we are implying, especially to young children, that these occupations can be filled only by males. Yet many women work as mail carriers, police officers, firefighters. A fact that is being increasingly recognized and legitimized through the use of such non-sexist language. I'm sorry. Language can shape how we see, how we taste, how we smell, how we hear. It also influences the way we think about the people, the ideas, and objects around us. Language communicates a culture's most important norms, values, and sanctions. That is why the decline of an old language or the introduction of a new one is such a sensitive issue in many parts of our world. As you can see, this is Google Translate. And also, we have elements of nonverbal communication. If you don't like the way a meeting is going, you might suddenly sit back, fold your arms, and turn down the corners of your mouth. When you see a friend in tears, you may give him or her a quick hug, or after winning a game, you probably high five your teammates. And these are all examples for nonverbal communication. The use of gestures, facial expression, and other visual images to communicate. Like other forms of language, nonverbal communication. Oops. Uh, Nonverbal communication, as I was saying, is not the same in all cultures. Um, and like nonverbal communication, the use of symbols can convey different meanings to different people. Symbols are the gestures, the objects, and the words that form the basis of human communications. Uh, like the thumbs up gesture, a gold star sticker, and a smiley face in an email are all symbols. Often simple, many symbols are rich in meaning and may not have the same meaning in all social contexts. Around someone's neck, for example, a cross can symbolize religious reverence over a gravesite, a belief in everlasting life, or set in flames, a racial hatred. So, as you can see, symbols might mean something different. Norms and values are very important elements of culture. Like wash your hands before dinner, thou shalt not kill, respect your elders. These all societies have ways of encouraging and enforcing what they view as appropriate behavior, while discouraging and punishing what they consider to be the inappropriate behavior. They also have a collective idea of what is good and what is not in society. We will learn to distinguish between the closely related concepts of norm and values right now. Norms are expectations about how people must behave. Norms can be very formal, they might be written down somewhere and may be codified into a law, such as laws that guide the dissolution of a marriage and relations with children when a partner has been unfaithful or informal. Um, so they might not be written somewhere formal or informal, like how one is supposed to behave on a crowded elevator. So norms are the established standards of behavior maintained by society. For a norm a norm to become significant, it must be widely shared and understood. For example, in movie theaters, we typically expect that people will be quiet while the film is shown. Um, so there are two types of norms, formal and informal, as I mentioned. And there are norms and sanctions. Sanctions are penalties and rewards for conduct of concerning a social norm. Conformity to a norm can lead to positive sanctions, kınama, such as a pay raise, a medal, a word of gratitude, or a pat on the back. Failure to conform can lead to negative sanctions, such as fines, threats, imprisonment, stares of contempt. What else? What else we have? We have values, yay. Oh, yeah. Uh, Cultural values are the collective conceptions of what is considered good, what is considered desirable and proper, or bad, undesirable, and improper in a culture. They indicate uh, that people in a given culture prefer as well as what they find important and morally right or wrong. Values may be specific, such as honoring one's parents and owning a home, or they may be more general, such as health, love, and democracy. So, the values, norms, and sanctions of a culture are most probably directly related. Uh, and another element of culture is the cultural diversity. So, cultural beliefs are one of the things that differ among cultures. However, they are other things that differ among cultures. The diversity of human behavior and practices is also remarkable. Acceptable forms of behavior vary extensively from culture to culture and often contrast considerably with what people from Western societies believe that is normal. For example, in the modern West, we regard children aged between 12 and 13 to be too young for marriage, but in some cultures, marriages and arranged between children that of that age as a matter of course. Cultural diversity. And this brings us to subcultures and countercultures. A subculture is a group whose values and norms are distinct from the majority. This expresses the differences in the culture of the same society. It occurs like in heterogeneous societies. A specific type of subculture is the counterculture, which is a group that rejects the prevailing norms and values of a society. They are the cultural structures that strongly oppose the generally accepted values in the society. Here, let's give a break and I will come back. I'm back. Another issue is the culture shock. So, human beings become a social entity by learning their lives based on the values, beliefs, and social relationships that distinguish it from other living things. So, this process actually creates culture in a simple sense. Thus, culture shows us what to do, what to eat, and how to take a stand against and to whom. And we even internalize them so much that we experience difficulties in accepting cultural elements other than these. So every culture has its own unique patterns of behavior which seem alien to people from other cultural backgrounds. So culture shock is the uncomfortable feeling of being surrounded by the non-familiar aspects of your daily lifestyle which you unconsciously take for granted in your own culture may not be part of everyday life in other parts of the world, like eating tofu soup and drinking coffee in your breakfast. But it's normal for Korean people. Um, Sociologists William Graham Sumner coined the term ethnocentrism to refer to the tendency to assume that one's own culture and way of life represent the norm or are superior than to all others. The ethnocentric person sees his or her group as the center or defining point of culture and views all other cultures as deviations from what is normal. Many everyday statements reflect our attitude that our culture is best. So we use terms such as underdeveloped, backward, primitive to refer to other societies. What we believe is our religion, what they believe is a myth or superstition. It is tempting to evaluate the practices of other cultures on the basis of our perspectives, and this is called ethnocentrism. Uh, Contrary to contrary of being ethnocentric, there is cultural relativism, judging our cultures by their own standards to understand them better, useful for understanding differences in culturally diverse societies. While ethnocentrism means evaluating foreign cultures using the familiar culture of the observer as a standard of correct behavior, cultural relativism means viewing people's behavior from the perspective of their own culture. It places a priority on understanding other cultures rather than dismissing them as strange or exotic. Unlike ethnocentrism, cultural relativists employ the kind of value neutrality in scientific study that Max Weber saw as so important. Remember what Max Weber talked about. And there are cultural universals. All societies have developed certain common practices and beliefs known as cultural universals. They are the elements, the patterns, traits, or institutions that are common to all human cultures worldwide, like uh, marriage patterns, family, athletic sports, cooking, dancing, visiting, personal names, medicine, religious ritual, funeral ceremonies, sexual restrictions, trade, everything. And we have assimilation and multiculturalism as cultural elements. This is also very important. Please remember this also. Memorize this. melting pot, toast salad, assimilation, and multiculturalism. Imperialism means that a society unjustly exploits its resources by dominating another country. After the Second World War, direct colonialism was replaced by cultural imperialism. Cultural imperialism is the imposition of one country's own cultural values and ideology on the people of another country. The development and spread of mass media manifests itself in the form of marketing and enforcing the cultural values of especially developed Western societies to the rest of the world. And we have rites of passage. What are these? Ordinary or ceremonial events marking the transition from one stage of life to the next. A ceremony that an individual goes through to mark the change from one status in life to another. Each culture recognizes different occasions and accomplishments as defining moments in a person's life, but many of them still correlate to physical changes like boys' first shave, girls' first menstruation. For example, christening or baptism in Christianity, naming rights, marriage rights, funeral rights. These are all rites of passages and they are very important cultural elements. It is, and there is also cultural diffusion. It is the spread of cultural beliefs and social activities from one group of people to another. Through cultural diffusion, horizons are broadened and people become more culturally rich. The mixing of world cultures through different ethnicities, religions, and nationalities has increased with advances in communication, transportation, and technology, like the spread of hip hop or McDonald's, iPhone. This is cultural diffusion. Do you know what Cinco de Mayo means? Or have you ever eaten sushi? Do you listen jazz music? If your answer is yes to three of these or one of these, so it means that you are exposed to cultural diffusion. Congratulations. Um, For almost a generation, public attention in the United States has focused on culture war or the polarization of society over controversial cultural elements. Originally in the 1990s, the term referred to political debates over heated issues such as abortion, religion, guns, sexual orientation. However, it took on a global meaning, especially after 9/11. Americans wondered, why do they hate us? But after the United States established a military presence in Iraq and Afghanistan, foreign opinions of the United States became quite negative. Some scholars have interpreted the terrorism, genocide, wars, and military occupations of the early 21st century as clash of civilizations. And this is something about cultural elements. And this is the end of our fifth class. Thank you for listening.